No, you're good.
I'm serious, I want you to cut that out. If that was all part of one thing, then we need to start all over. Hey, what's up guys, Tactaholics here, and today we're breaking down my very first handgun, a Bersa Thunder 380. Story behind this handgun was I went into a store. I was in need of a personal defense handgun that I could conceal in a work bag and under work clothing. 9mm at the time was extremely hard to find, and I needed something that I could pick up in a couple days and have ammo to shoot and carry. So that landed me with a 380. The other benefit to a 380 is they're slightly smaller frames on average, and their price points were much lower. I had a relatively small budget at the time, and the guy behind the gun counter recommended this. One thing I noticed right away with it, its rubber grips are very small and compact. With the oversized tang here, fit nice into my very small hands. It's very ergonomic as far as that is concerned. So I enjoyed that feeling. Being very new to handguns, it felt like a very comfortable gun in my hands. The other piece about it that the guy sold me on was that it had a safety. So if you read a lot of blogs or you hear people talk about Bersas, they're kind of known for people saying they're unreliable. I've had over 3,000 rounds through this gun, not being treated very nicely, hardly cleaned, probably the dirtiest, crappiest 380 ammo I can find, and I've yet to have a problem with it. I think it's one of those things, you just happen to get a bad gun. I can't say that I would call this gun unreliable. It has been a perfect gun for me. It's been easy to conceal as far as in my work bag and in my clothes. So all that being said about this little Bersa, I have since moved away from shooting my Bersa and carrying it on a regular basis. I have moved into a striker fired platform in my XDM 9mm and a SIG 320. The reason for that move was it was just easier for me to function a striker fired gun. I didn't like the safety, I didn't like the single double action variants in the trigger, and I had shot a bunch of people's guns and decided that I just felt more comfortable shooting those. I also found that when I was actually carrying my firearm, the slight difference in the size of the 380 to the XDM or SIG 320 or any other striker-fired platform was really minimal. The gun was either going to show or it wasn't going to show. And that small size difference that I was so concerned with early on in purchasing my firearm didn't matter as much now to me after I've actually had the application and been carrying the gun for a year or so. The other reason for the switch is I just wanted to carry more rounds in my handgun. I originally wanted a 9mm. I couldn't find 9mm ammo. You couldn't get 9mm compact handguns at the time very easily. Now that they became more readily available, I jumped on the opportunity to get one, and I find it much more comfortable to hold the little bit heavier, bigger gun. Feels more comfortable in my hand now that I'm used to shooting a handgun more frequently.
Can you feel the thunder? Because I can. This little Bersa has been lovingly dubbed the Dirty Argentinian. Your hands get pretty dirty for whatever reason when you're shooting the gun. I mean, it's kind of a dirty little bugger. But, you know, like we're saying, you really can't argue with its performance with this particular gun anyways. I mean, in this price range, you are kind of hit or miss, I think, as far as whether or not the gun's going to reliably cycle. And there's people out there that shoot, I'm sure I'll take some grief for it, but $120 high points that have no issues other than the fact that it's a high point. But moving forward, you know, it is an inexpensive gun. It is something that a lot of people are marketed towards as a concealed carry piece. You know, some of the things that I'm personally not a fan of would be not necessarily the double single action, although to speak for a second on double single action firearms, I think that it does take a lot more time and a lot more energy and potentially bullets and money invested to be able to shoot your gun at a highly proficient level as opposed to something like a striker fired system. You guys know me, I shoot double single action firearms, not bad mouthing them in any way, but it certainly is not as simple of a gun to operate as something like your Glock or your SIG 320 or your XD or M&P, stuff like that. But one of the things with this double single action in particular is that safety. Go ahead and move the gun around here. So the safety to me feels almost kind of counterintuitive to have to try to drive that safety up with your thumb when you're getting your grip. So if the gun comes out of a holster or a bag or whatever it's in and you choose to carry with the safety in the safe position, you know, getting that grip and trying to bring that, I mean, you can see me struggle right there, and this is not under duress or anything. Similar to the Berettas, how the safety goes up to disengage the safety. Personally, if a gun has a safety, for me, I'm more of a fan of the 1911 style, the HK style safeties, where you're sweeping the lever down. You know, as you grip the gun, you make a fist on the grip of the gun. When you make a fist, you don't, you know, do that kind of a thing where your thumb comes up naturally. You naturally close your hand. So I'm not a big fan of the safety on this gun. Another thing, if you want to dry fire to do practice and training at your house, you have to have the magazine. Right now I have the safety off, and nothing happens. So you have to have the magazine in the gun to be able to work that safety. Okay, so if you're doing dry fire practice double action, you're fine. You could just dry fire just like that. But if you want to try to practice dry fire in single action, you lock the slide open every time. So it becomes this process of dropping the magazine, racking the slide, reinserting the magazine, reacquiring your grip, breaking that trigger. Unless you want to sit there and cock the hammer back, of something I'm not a fan of with a semi-auto gun. This is not a revolver. There's no need to cock a thumb or cock the hammer with your thumb, in my opinion. Surprisingly, when we brought the gun back a little bit, you know, the sights, they're pretty small. You can see here, they're fairly small on top of the gun, but they do pick up relatively well for what they are. You know, and we were able to hit the steel a couple times at pretty good distance. I haven't shot one of these guns in probably a year and a half, so it's been a long time. So I obviously threw a couple of rounds off target there, but you know, you can hit it with a little bit of work. You get comfortable with the gun. You know, touching on the size of it, my meat hooks kind of get packed in here pretty extremely so. I mean, where's the gun in my hand? But, you know, just like we mentioned before, having that little oversized tang or almost like a mini beaver tail kind of helps protect your hand. And I'd never rolled up so far that I was getting cut by the slide or anything coming back. I mean, you could see, try to get it in the light, you can see that I got a lot of clearance right there. So it does actually protect your hand. Even with bigger hands, it's not a bad option. You know, talking about a defensive applicability of this gun, you'll hear people say that having a gun, any gun, is better, no matter where you carry it on your person, is better than not having a gun with you. Personally, I don't think that's true. If you guys want to know more about this and want to have a discussion video, let us know in the comments below and we'll go ahead and make one up for you. But I think that unless you're familiar with the way that your gun works and you're familiar with all the bells and whistles that this thing has, all the clicks and snaps, it's just more extraneous movements to forget to click and snap in a stressful situation. So if you do carry something like this, make sure that you shoot it all the time. Make sure that the gun cycles, because it is an inexpensive gun. A little bit prone to jamming, being a 380 round, not that it's bad, but make sure that this thing cycles and make sure that you understand how it works. You know, I think the price point, what are these things, about 250 bucks, you know, $300, right around there. It's not bad, you know, it's going to shoot. There's guns that I would choose this over, but there's a lot of guns I would choose over this for defensive purposes. If you want a gun that goes bang, this thing goes bang, and it makes a mess while it's doing it, so why not, you know?
Alright guys, so as we've already touched on a couple times, that safety on that gun is a little bit cumbersome to operate. I initially purchased that gun because I liked the idea, being new to firearms, being new to concealed carry, of the idea of a safety. I thought it gave me a comfort feeling. The more I shot the gun, the more I disliked the safety. I actually ended up carrying that gun when I was carrying it concealed in double action mode. I did not use the safety. I still do not use the safety on it. So really the feature I thought I was buying it for, I decided I hated. So just keep that in mind when you're actually shopping for a defensive firearm. It's been a great gun for me. I have no complaints over its performance, no complaints over its feel in my hand. I've just chosen, as I've gotten more comfortable with firearms, to move to a striker-fired platform and a slightly larger gun. So overall, guys, the Bersa 380 has been a great little first handgun for me. Came in at a good price point. Just make sure when you are selecting a defensive firearm, or any firearm for that matter, you understand all the features of the gun you're actually deciding to purchase and carry, as well as your application for it. I didn't really know what it was going to be like to carry a firearm, and now that I'm more comfortable, I've made decisions, away from the original gun that I thought was going to be the best fit for me, and that happens. Just make sure you're always comfortable with what you're carrying, and get lots of practice and trigger time on what you choose to defend yourself with on a daily basis. So as always, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos here on YouTube. And as always, keep it hot. And it's really nice. It's not windy today, so my hair is nice and flat. That was recorded.
Yeah, but every time you go off camera, I'm going to keep this stuff in there.
Why?
Because it's funny.